Is the vaccine war the next run of play? NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers has challenged Kansas City Chiefs tight end and Taylor Swift's alleged new beau to a COVID-19 vaccine debate. In a recent appearance on ESPN's Pat McAfee show, Rodgers regarded Kelce as Mr. Pfizer in reference to his campaign work with a pharmaceutical company and challenged him to a public vaccine face-off.
Saying, Mr. Pfizer said he didn't think he'd be in a vax war with me. This ain't a war, homie. This is just conversation. But if you want to have some sort of dual debate, have me on the podcast, come on the show. Let's have a conversation.
Mr. Pfizer said he didn't think he would be in a vax war with me.
Oh, boy.
Didn't think he'd be in a vax war with me. This ain't a war, homie. This is just conversation. But if you want to have some sort of dual debate, have me on the podcast. Come on the show. Let's have a conversation.
Okay. Pass it out.
Let's do it like in John Wick 4, right? So we both have a second.
Nice.
Right? So somebody to help us out. I'm going to take my man, RFK Jr.
Okay. Okay.
As an independent.
Hell yeah.
Right? And he can have, Tony Fauci or some other pharmacrat, and we can have a conversation about this.
All right, I don't think that he has directly responded. Kelce has directly responded to the challenge to debate me, bro. But he was asked about the Mr. Pfizer comments recently, and he had this to say.
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, with this stash right now, I look like a guy named Mr. Pfizer. Who knew I'd get into the vax wars with Aaron Rodgers, man? It's Mr. Pfizer versus the Johnson & Johnson family over there, man.
I don't think we asked you about it. Since you're in the commercial, can you kind of just say why you wanted to do that?
I mean, I've always been, once I got the vaccine, I got it because of, keeping myself safe, keeping my family safe, the people in this building. So, yeah, I stand by it 1,000% and fully comfortable with him calling me Mr. Pfizer.
Now, from Kelce's tone there, I suspect he's not especially interested in doing debate podcasts with Rodgers. What do you make of this?
I don't think Aaron Rodgers is especially interested in having an actual duel to the death with Kelce either. I thought that was humorous. Aaron Rodgers, smart guy, very successful on Jeopardy, and a terrific guest host of Jeopardy. He was actually going to be my pick to be the new permanent host. Ken Jennings is doing a great job. No disrespect there. I do, not to take this seriously because it's just whatever kind of there are tons of sports rivalries that sort of, our audience knows how sporty you and I are. We're just, major fans of the game. Kelce does say there that, he got vaccinated for himself. That's fine. But for his family and for his teammates, for the other people in the building, again, Aaron Rodgers is so animated on this issue because he got shamed and in a little bit of trouble for being evasive about his vaccination status. He didn't want to get vaccinated. And again, if you're a high performance athlete, I can understand your unwillingness to want to put something in your body. Like, you should have total autonomy over that. Everyone should have total autonomy over that. But I think the vaccines do, especially if you're elderly or in a compromised group, provide you protection from serious disease and death. They also offer, I think, some level of protection against infection, just as actually having contracted COVID provides you some level of protection for at least some period of time. But the really strong claims about how everybody needs to get vaccinated to end the spread of this disease and to protect everyone around you haven't really stood the test of time very well. And that's exactly what, do you remember that era of shaming people? Like, how dare you won't get vaccinated to protect everyone around you? It really now looks like people got way over their skis in making that claim. So I think that's why he's combative about that. And Kelce did play into that wrongful notion a little bit there.
Sure. But also, I do think it helps his teammates for him not to get COVID, have to be hospitalized by COVID, as narrow as the risk is. When you get COVID, of course, that means if you're more likely to get COVID, then you're more likely to transmit COVID. I totally agree that those claims were vastly overstated. But it matters, it's still at the margins true. And it is a little bit weird that we're in a posture now where, however it was before, the posture now is that Kelce is coming off as very nonchalant and like, it's okay, man. Like, it's a joke. I do look like Mr. Pfizer. Look at my mustache, LOL. And it does feel like it's the people who are no longer, they were once, but no longer subject to all those mandates and stuff that are still being very aggressive and almost mandating compliance to their point of view rhetorically.
Well, they're
of
not
course,
mandating compliance, but
of the people who are just like, yeah, I was happy to get it. I got it. It is what it is.
It just feels very pathologically ridiculous that we lived through a time period where people were, in some cases, literally forced to get it to keep their employment, or were shamed into getting it based on the idea that this was what was going to bring the pandemic to an end. This was necessary to stop the spread of the disease. Virtually, people did that, and then they got COVID anyway. People have been taking any number of shots and gotten COVID multiple times. It's, how many people, like millions of people having the experience of getting the shot, then getting COVID. It's just.
But Robby, it's about avoiding the worst effects of COVID. So it's about avoiding hospitalization and
right. And
death.
I think if you're in an at-risk category or if you're over a certain age, it's a really good and important thing you can do for your own health, for sure.
And I just don't want to, we say that, but I don't want to skip by. There were a lot of young people who were hospitalized, permanently injured, and who died of COVID. There were. They're not the majority, they're not half, they're not the plurality or anything like that. But there were young people. That was why it was so scary in the beginning. You couldn't predict who was going to succumb. And I do think there's a reasonable argument for someone, an elite athlete whose team depends on them, wanting to make sure that they don't jeopardize the team by taking not taking care of their own health.
I mean, but elite athletes, their bodies are like finely tuned machines in terms of everything they eat, the exercise regimens they do. I don't think it's wild to be a little wary about getting a kind of injection, thinking that might, throw off your body in some way. I'm not trying to, cite.
I don't think it's wild to be concerned about what the effects of getting COVID are going to be for an elite athlete.
Right, but
I just was reading something about how it's not advised to exercise, to do a lot of cardio, to run when you have COVID. And a lot of other illnesses, they say run, go ahead and keep running if you have the flu or whatever. It helps you recover. It's good to stay healthy throughout. But specifically with COVID, I think because of the cardiovascular implications, they tell you not to. So what are the implications of that for an athlete who has to train?
But you're going to get, I'm sorry, but getting the vaccine is not a get out of jail free card for avoiding COVID.
Robby, we've talked about this before. The initial strain did seem to have the vaccine protected against that first 2020, 21.
For a little while, there was a little bit of protection.
That's where a lot of people, that's the only vaccine I ever took was during that time, and then a booster. But that's what a lot of us are still talking about. And so it did have an effect. I take your point entirely about how it didn't hold up and it doesn't remain to be true, and a lot of information about how protective just getting COVID was as compared to the vaccine was kind of suppressed by media outlets who still wanted you to get the vaccine even if you had already just had COVID. I take all of that fully. But we don't have to also misrepresent that there was this protective value in the beginning, and a lot of these people who were, public spokespeople for the vaccine and all of that were correct. We're correct about the protective value of that first vaccine against the strain, and continued to be correct about the protective value of the vaccine for vulnerable populations.
I mean, I'm not regretful of getting it or something. I don't getting the vaccine. I don't think the claims of the claims of harm, I think, have been overstated, but also the claims of the positives have also been overstated. That's kind of where I'm at with this. Tomorrow on Rising, we will be back with more to discuss, more news going on. If you haven't heard, we're bringing back an old tradition of answering your questions in the form of Rising Ask Me Anything. I think the last time I did this was with Ryan Grimm and Kim Iverson, whole long time ago. So please give us your comments. The segment will air right here on YouTube on Sunday mornings at 11 a.m.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while you're on the go, we are now available anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Bye-bye.
Take care.